Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Katzer, and I'm really excited because today's guest actually has an Englewood, Florida connection, and I didn't know it, but let me tell you about Laurie Lyons. Laurie is a marketing and website maven. Her business, Make Your Marketing Simple, and website company, Ignite Marketing, helps businesses like yours see past what everyone else is doing. You've heard it, everyone is doing it. Well, you don't necessarily need to be doing everything yourself, but you want to be focusing on what is profitable for you and your business. Her online program, Make Your Marketing Simple, is a guided program to help inspirational entrepreneurs with an actionable marketing plan and solid marketing to grow your business with authenticity and with purpose. Welcome, Laurie.
Thank you, Tammy. I'm excited to be here. And yes, we had fun talking about Englewood.
Like I said, many of you know I live in a little teeny town on the west coast of Florida, about an hour and a half south of Tampa. So sometimes I'll say Englewood and people think I'm talking about California. No, I live in a beautiful fishing village, and it just so happens that Laurie has a connection here. So we were enjoying that and the fact that, you know, we have something in common besides internet marketing and helping business people to market themselves. And it's interesting because I've been using online marketing myself since 2009 when I jumped ship and became a social media marketing consultant for local businesses. And now, of course, I focus on podcasting and books. But Laurie, you are really focusing in on what you call encore entrepreneurs. So tell me more about that and what you offer.
Yes. Encore entrepreneur is someone who has they've come from corporate or they've been retired for a couple of years, and they're driving themselves crazy as well as their spouse. So they decide that they want to either start a new business, they want to beef up their retirement, they want to travel, and they're just finding their retirement isn't quite doing what they want it to do. So they decide to start a business. And I read a statistic the other day that baby boomer businesses comprise almost 50% of the businesses in America today, and that they're one of the fastest growing segments of the marketplace of people starting new business or buying new franchises for those very reasons, almost double what millennials are, which really surprised me because I thought the 20-something and 30-somethings were the ones that were really being the entrepreneurs now, but no, it's the people 50 and over. I think baby boomers officially ends at 1974. So we're right around there. But 50 and over is the fastest growing segment of new businesses.
Wow. Well, yeah. I know I fit into the demographic of baby boomer. And I think one of the reasons, especially for people who have been in corporate world, or maybe they were middle managers like I was in media, and you find, you know, you'll get that social security statement and you look at it and you go,
yeah,
I did. And I said, I can't live off of that. And because I lived in Florida, which is a right to work state, that basically meant every place I ever worked, I really didn't have any retirement benefits. You were literally, if they decided they didn't want you anymore, they would just say, sorry, see you.
Right.
And I know many people live that, but it is interesting that more baby boomers are 50%, but I can understand that because millennials are young. You know, you're still experimenting. And I think it's really important what you do, because if I had someone like you who could have helped me figure out my online marketing or what I needed to do to promote myself, I probably would be 3 times ahead of the game of where I am now, because I was one of those do it on a budget, shoestring budget, do it yourself. Tell me, is that a mistake? Or what is your advice for people who are like, I'll just go make myself a website, or I'll have my, my nephew make my website for me, or I'll have the web designer make me a pretty brochure online.
Right. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with going on, and especially as someone who is just starting out, and going on and doing what I call the rent-a-sites. Quite frankly, they're the Wixes, they're the Squarespaces, they're the Weebly's, and they're okay for somebody starting out. What a good web person can do for you is really work with you to hone in on who your market is, who your ideal client is, who your target market is. And while you might get a little bit of guidance online with some of those other do-it-yourself companies, they're not going to really hone in with you and help you identify and get you started on a good marketing path, like a good website designer or developer will. And a developer, not so much, even because they're the coders and they do the back end. But a good marketing person can help you define your message, define your target market. They can help you, guide you. And can you do it yourself? Sure. But like you said, you'll be 3 times farther ahead if you bring somebody in that has that expertise. And the sad thing is when you start looking at budgets and you start looking at where I'm going to cut, marketing is the first thing that goes, but it's the thing that makes you money. So, you can't sell if you don't have customers to sell to, and it's the marketing that brings those in.
So I absolutely agree with you, because I've witnessed it so many times where people, they don't want to spend any money at all. And they'll go and they'll use, let's say, for example, Wix. And I often see it in Facebook where people will say, what is the difference between Wix and WordPress, for example? Mm-hmm. And I always say, well, it'll be your search engine optimization and whether or not you'll be found, and flexibility. And there's all of these things.
Right.
So with that in mind, because we're all told you need a website, mm-hmm. you need a funnel, you need to be on social media. And of course, what's the flavor of the day?
Right.
TikTok right now, or Snapchat.
Yes.
Yeah. And I laugh because I remember doing videos. Facebook is not a fad. And yeah. I know, it's still around. So do we need a website? What do we really need?
Yeah. And no wonder people are overwhelmed and confused and frazzled, because there's so many things out there, and some of them are quote unquote free. But I tell my clients to start with a one-page website, which is basically talking about the pain points and solutions that you have for your ideal client. Then it talks a little bit about you in a way that says how you use your experience to help your client. A website is no longer a brochure site. It's not about you and your credentials and blah, blah, blah. Look at everything that I've done. It's how I help you and what I can do for you and what problems I can solve for you and how I solve them. So that's the first thing I tell my clients. And they don't have to have any, you don't have to spend a bazillion thousands of dollars for a 200-page website, when all you really need is to have a one-pager that will authenticate you. It will say, this is a business. It'll give me a flavor of who you are and how you help me. And a lot of the who you are is the branding that's so popular. People talk a lot about branding and how to brand yourself and the tone of voice and stuff that you work with clients. So that's where that comes in. So you get a good little snapshot. And I do remember MySpace too, by the way. We forgot MySpace. But the other thing is too, a website comes in handy if you're working on social media, because my feeling is a social media is the soundbite of what you do and what your company is and who you are. Whereas once you have the soundbite, you bring them back to your website for their story. So they get more of you, especially if you're doing content, if you're blogging and talking about what you do from a blog standpoint. So you have your sound media, your social media, that's the soundbite, and you bring them back to your website. Even your email funnels should come back to your website, so that that's where the depository of your content and your information is in one place.
So one-page website, use social media like a soundbite, and then pull them back into your one-page website so that they can figure out who you are. What about all of the new stuff that's coming out? You've got chat box, you have retargeting, you have Facebook ads, you have LinkedIn, you have Twitter. How do you make that decision on where to invest your money?
You make it based on where you're... Oh, sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry, Tammy?
Oh, go ahead. I was just saying your money and your time.
Yeah, your money and your time, absolutely, because both are equally valuable. You go where your market is. Once you've identified who your ideal client is, who your avatar is, where they hang out, and they hang out in different places on social media. If your target is somebody who is more in, there are a lot of people who work with corporate clients, I would be all over LinkedIn all day long, because that's where the corporate clients are. A statistic says that 87% of YouTube users are teenage boys looking up gaming tips. Like 86% of women look up skincare and makeup and weight loss. So if those are what I do and those are my clients, I'm on YouTube constantly. I'm putting out videos. I'm commenting on videos that people leave. Also, I was listening to something the other day that YouTube can also drive the other social platforms. So if my market is, a woman in her mid-30s that is got a couple of kids and she's looking to decorate a nursery for her third child or second child, and she's on Pinterest, then if that's your market, I'd be on Pinterest. The fallacy about Facebook is that most people are a little older. That could be true. I think the demographic is going up a little bit as Facebook ages. So if you're, for me, my market is all over Facebook, because I'm looking for women that are 50 and older that are starting new businesses, and they're on Facebook. So that's where I am. So it just depends on where they are.
Well, I think you're right, because I know a lot of my clients are on Facebook, and they're typically also participating in groups.
Yes.
And they really do talk back and forth, and they're looking for someone who will be honest with them and who they, know is real. And I've noticed a lot of people using Facebook Live. And I've also seen in the last couple of years a big uptick in podcasting.
Oh, yes.
And I've loved video forever. And I think you can use video all over, in different platforms. So when you work with people on their different projects, how do you start? I was actually on your website earlier, and I downloaded your freebie. So Can you share what that freebie is and how people can get it?
Sure. It's the name of it is called 3 Simple Shifts for Momentum in Your Business. And you can go to either of my websites, ignitingyourbusiness.com, which is my website, the website division of my company, or you can go to makeyourmarketingsimple.com. Both of them are /success, so that you can download it there at either one of them. And it basically kind of guides you through activities to show you how to identify your ideal client. Then it talks about making sure that you're in the right place, and it identifies your pain points. So it takes all of those 3 things and helps move you along to the next step. And it really kind of takes you back to basics, because we get so involved in thinking about, well, I got to go do this and I got to go do this. And that even for me now, as many years as I've been doing this, I actually just redid my avatar a couple of weeks ago. So I still went back to basics to identify where I needed to move to take my company forward. And I use this approach. I start when athletes are having, want to expand and improve their game, they bring in a new coach. They bring in, they go back to basics because that's where they have to start. And sometimes just going back to basics as a business owner, you can see things differently. Things change. You can get more clarity on it. So we take it back to basics with 3 simple shifts for momentum.
So let's go over that because I think that's important. You said that one of the simple shifts is to actually look at who is your ideal client. And it is so amazing to me because I work with my clients and I try to start them at that. And you would be amazed at how many people they go, well, everybody.
Exactly.
Yes. How do you hone that down so that you know who your ideal client is? If you could give a tip or two, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, like I said, I just really did this for myself because going into this Encore Entrepreneur and really, really enjoying this market, I thought I really hadn't taken the time to identify who she is. And I was challenged in a mastermind that I'm in that, okay, you need to do this. I was on the hot seat getting a little coaching and they said, you need to do this. I'm like, you're right. I do, color shoes, didn't want to do it. But once I really sat down and started thinking about who she was and, what her husband looks like. And she's got 2 kids and, I live in Georgia. So her daughter goes to Georgia Tech. Her son goes to Georgia. I pulled in a vision of the neighborhood she lived in, which is one near me. She's a retired elementary school principal, and I knew exactly which school she taught in. And, so now she's retired and, like a lot of us our age, our retirement was hit back in 2008, 2010. So we're not where we were in 2007. So that we're trying to make up some retirement. So that's why she wants to start a business. And, I even went so detailed as to talk about what she likes to drink. She enjoys a good glass of wine and, margarita without salt. And she never leaves the house without makeup, which is so not me. But it gives me a clear vision of who she is. And I really kind of had fun with her. It was kind of like designing a paper doll without the paper. So now that I can sit and talk about her and say, this is who I'm looking for. She's college educated. She had a good job. She had a job where her education was extremely important, but she had leadership skills. She worked with children. She worked with adults. She had to follow rules. She had to get reports in on time. So there's a very specific picture I have of her. And that exercise was terrific. And I just kind of sit down and thought about, what do we do in a lifetime? What is this? If I took a picture of my life today, what would somebody want to know about me? And that's kind of how I designed her. And I started big and went small. And I thought about, my friends and the people I enjoyed being around and, some of the things that they didn't do so well, because I had to make her human. So what were her faults?
Well, it's interesting because if you think about it, somebody like that, they've been a leader. And I know a couple things that come to mind about what problems someone like that might come to. They've used technology, but for very specific things. For example, maybe for, writing letters, or they dictated a letter and somebody else sent the letter off to the kid who was bad,
Right.
Yeah. Or they've used technology, but it was only something they used. Again, maybe they checked emails, but that was it.
Right.
They didn't use anything else. Another thing is, a lot of people, Encore entrepreneurs, they might shift from being in this role as a leader where they never had to deal with how much to charge people.
Right.
So they don't know how much to charge for their services. Or maybe suddenly they say, you know what, I really want to focus on creating this heart-centered business, and they've never, ever sold anything. They've been a teacher, all their lives. And so they don't know how to make that transition to
Right.
ask for money. Do you find that those are some of the issues that your avatar, the people that are your clients, some of the issues they have?
Tammy, that's a really good question because I don't know if I put that in there. So it brings up a really good question because, when I was designing Linda and creating Linda, she either wants to go two ways. She's always been very fashionable. Her house is decorated, so she's got a real creative flair. So does she want to go into something like be a fashion consultant or do interior design, or does she want to go and be more like a consultant for principals because she was a very successful one. So, when you take that back and you look at what the skills are and how to start charging money for that. I think even as somebody who's been in business for years, we still struggle with that. Do we charge enough? Oh gosh, are we overcharging? Oh gosh, what is that? What is that sweet spot? And, sometimes it's just what the marketplace will bear. And sometimes it's what our mind will bear. And sometimes, I'm sure you've been in the situation where you've given somebody a proposal and they're like, okay, fine. And you're like, dang, I should have asked more money. Or it's like, maybe I'm asking a little too much and you can tell there's a little, so it's just that fine line. And we can have conversations all day long about cost of doing business and how much does it really cost you, not, all that kind of stuff. But what it boils down to being in the business that I am is what am I comfortable charging? Because I always want to charge more, but also what will the marketplace bear and what is a fair price? What is my expertise and what am I going to do for them? And sometimes it's a matter of backing off some of the personal time and you do a little more automation so that you're not spending that personal time with them. Because that's where your cost is how much personal time.
The reason I asked all those questions was those were all issues I personally went through.
Yeah.
And because if you don't charge enough for your brains, then you will start to feel bad about yourself. And of course, if you overprice yourself and your expertise, then nobody buys. So right. There is a sweet spot. And you talk about automation. If you're going to automate, do you have a suggestion on what could be automated or turned over to somebody else? Like, what would you do, if somebody wanted to automate?
I got creative when I started looking and it was time to expand my team, which is bringing in the hiring, and I'll get to the automation in just a second. But I got real creative with hiring my team, and I did an apprentice program that people came in and they worked for me for 3 months, and then we would turn that over. So that was one way that I was able to leverage my time, was by having other people do this for me, and it was a very budget friendly way to do it as I grew. Then for the automation, I think that if you sit back and you look, technically social media you can automate, and that's a very simple way to start by putting it on the Hootsuite or the buffers or something and just leverage that time. And there's so much out there for, there's a bazillion social media management platforms. It's finding one that you're comfortable with. When you go into the email automation, that can get a little more complicated. And that's where I'd say hire somebody to do it, because if you're not doing those in the right order and the right steps, those can come back to bite you if you're not doing those correctly. So I would say go there. On the flip side of that, and I'm going to contradict myself just a little bit, as your business grows and social media becomes much more important to you, then I think you have to hire that out because it becomes so time intensive. I think if you're just starting out, just like a Wix or a Weebly site, you could probably start out a little bit by yourself. And then as your business grows, that's something. And, get your house clean. Have somebody come in and clean your house, because that's something you don't need to do.
Right there is the big tip of the day is if you're focused on your business, you cannot be worried about washing the dishes.
Right.
Because and that's where many people, I think, who do become entrepreneurs after having a career, right, they get pulled. And of course, another thing that I think is really important is you have to get your family buy-in, and that goes all the way down to your pet and your spouse or your significant other and your children. For example, my cat got mad at me when I went on a business trip. Yeah. And when I got home, she hissed at me. So, and of course, I had to explain to the cat, I will come back. And now, of course, I come and go, and she seems perfectly fine. Yeah. But I've actually, I talked to lots of people, and that is one of the big issues that many people face. And again, for a baby boomer, let's say that Linda, her kids are, let's say they're grown, but her husband he's retired, and he's like saying, "Hey, Linda, let's go." And she goes, "I can't, I'm focusing on creating business." Right. And so you do have to get this buy-in from your family, whatever the family structure may be. Again, I want everybody to definitely go get that free gift from your website, because like I said, I downloaded it, and the 3 things that you were talking about are all important. And you give step-by-step instructions on how to, like, for example, create that avatar. Right. Of all of the things that you do related to marketing your business, how important is everything we've talked about, creating the website, getting on social media? Could you have a business today and forego all of it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You really could. You could, people start businesses all the time without even having a business card. And if you're going to do that, make sure that you're in front of people, that you're networking, that you're out talking about your business, because some way, shape, or form, you got to get clients in the door, and you got to let people know who you are and what you do. Can you do it? Sure. But I think it takes a whole heck of a lot longer. And I think it's a little harder to do it that way.
And I think the online presence, when you do have a website, when you have social media, when you have a couple of videos, you have social proof.
Absolutely.
Then you're, from the time somebody hears you or meets you at a networking event or the Chamber of Commerce or wherever you're at, your time between getting them to buy from you can be significantly short. Sure. So I think you're absolutely right that you could go totally old school. I mean, I'm sure there's people out there who are.
Oh, yeah.
But the time frame to grow, and that's one thing as we get older, we have less time, because we're on the other side of our life. I mean, even at 60, you probably still have 30, 40 years, but it's still less time than it was before 60.
Sure. Yeah.
Either that or we're in middle age at, 100. But I don't think most people want to be working. And that's a whole nother conversation we could have in the future, is how do you create an online presence that can make you money on autopilot?
Sure. Yeah.
Because I think that's another thing that people like your avatar, Linda, should be looking at, is like, well, what can I create so that I don't have to work 5 days a week or 7 days a week or whatever, and I can go play with my, family or my husband or my significant other, because that's another thing that I think that someone like you, with the insight that you have, can say, hey, if we build this one-page website, that's going to relieve a lot of pressure off of you. So if somebody wants to work with you, what is the best way for them to get in connection, Laurie?
Actually, the best way is just to go to my website, ignitingyourbusiness.com. If you go to my contact page, there's a link right to my calendar, and you can book a time right on my website to talk with me, and we can consult, or we have some time booked out there. I'm all active on all the social media. And I must confess, I'm working on building my social media because I've been too busy to do it. But that's my goal, is to start working on that. But I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn. So I'm all of those places as well. But yeah, or email me. It's my email address is on my website. So there's a lot of ways that you can. I'm not so big that it's not hard to get in touch with me. So not yet.
I think that's really the beautiful thing about people who are Encore entrepreneurs. They want to talk to a human.
Yes.
For example, I would rather pick up the phone and have a conversation or talk to somebody on a Zoom call than have somebody send me a text.
Yeah.
Or an email, because then I know the context.
Right.
I can see you and hear your voice, so I can get all of those clues. Then a text message that, where you could say, hey, you want to go to dinner? Yeah. Okay. See you.
Right.
Hang up. To, you want to go to dinner? Oh, blah, blah, blah. And then, pretty soon you'd have all of these text messages. So, I think that Encore entrepreneurs certainly are a really good market. And I know for a fact that these people like Linda are hanging out on Facebook. They are out there networking with other women, and they need help because they're not experts in technology.
Right.
That's pretty,
yeah. And I started a website company at 58. So I totally understand exactly. And, thank goodness for YouTube, because if it's on YouTube, you can be an expert in it. So, when I'm in doubt now, I YouTube it and I'm like, oh, that makes sense. And I try to put it all together. So that's me. Linda's me. So
that's great. Well, Laurie, before I let you go, do you have one last piece of advice that we can give our listeners?
I would tell your listeners not to worry about the details of it, that if you want to start a business, start it. Just do it. Because if you wait till every piece is in place, then you're probably never going to do it. But do it correctly. Research, find the best people that you know to work with, that you like and that you trust, and get started on a good path. But do it.
That's super advice, everyone. Don't let perfectionism get in the way of your success, because if you can get started and just keep moving, baby steps a little bit at a time, you can do that. So thank you so much, Laurie. I enjoyed our conversation.
I did too, Tammy.
We provided some good tips, so thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And I'm looking forward to having lunch with you in Inglewood.
Yeah, great. Yeah. Let's plan on that when you come to Inglewood. Make sure you
absolutely
up, and that would be cool. And if I come to Atlanta, you might be hearing from me.
Absolutely.
On that side. So everyone,
cool.
This is Tammy Patzer. Go make it a beautiful day.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.